standing for our gospel lesson for today, taken from the Gospel according to Matthew, the 2nd chapter, verses 1 through 12. Now, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem in the territory of Judea during the rule of King Herod, Magi came from the east to Jerusalem. They asked, "Where is the newborn King of the Jews? We've seen his star in the east, and we've come to honor him." When King Herod heard this, he was troubled, and everyone in Jerusalem was troubled with him. He gathered all the chief priests and the legal experts and asked them where the Christ was to be born. They said, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for this is what the prophet wrote. You, Bethlehem, land of Judah, by no means are you least among the rulers of Judah, because from you will come one who governs, who will shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod secretly called for the Magi and found out from them the time when the star had first appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search carefully for the child. When you found him, report to me, so that I too may go and honor him." When they heard the king, they went, and look, the star they had seen in the east went ahead of them, until it stood over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were filled with joy. They entered the house and saw the child with Mary his mother. Falling to their knees, they honored him. Then they opened their treasure chests and presented him with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Because they were warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they went back to their own country by another route. This is the word of God for all people.
Thanks be to God.
You may be seated.
The world is not in your books and maps. It's out there.
I can't just go running off into the blue. I am a Baggins of Bag End.
You are also a Took. Did you know that your great-great-great-great-uncle Bullroarer Took was so large he could ride a real horse? Yes, well, he could. In the Battle of Green Fields, he charged the goblin ranks. He swung his club so hard, it knocked the goblin king's head clean off, and it sailed 100 yards through the air and went down a rabbit hole. And thus the battle was won. And the game of golf invented at the same time.
I do believe you made that up.
Well, all good stories deserve embellishment. You'll have a tale or two to tell of your own when you come back.
Can you promise that I will come back?
No. And if you do, you will not be the same.
We have been on a journey, a road trip of sorts, and we come now to the end of the road trip, but not the end of the journey. Next week, we'll see a different bulletin cover, and we'll have a different sermon series. But that does not mean that our time of journey is over. It just means that it takes on a new phase. Now, I do not know if any of you had this thought this morning, but I did. Today is a very important day for me, because this, a year ago, was my first Sunday. It has been a year. And I cannot tell you how glad I was to not have to be packing and unpacking. Now, fortunately, last year when we moved, it did not snow and ice. But it was rather chaotic. And here we are a year later, and I can firmly tell you one thing. I am not who I was a year ago. Now, the book is far better than the movies, almost always. And this is true with The Hobbit, though cinematography helps us see things in new ways. And here we have a glimpse at Gandalf trying to coax Bilbo, the Hobbit, into going on a journey. And he tells them about his ancestors and the great deeds that they did, although they are slightly embellished. by Gandalf. And then a question is asked by Bilbo. Can you guarantee that I'll come back? Now, for many of us, we have a tendency to not like to answer people truthfully. I'm not saying that we're bald-faced liars, but what I'm saying is sometimes we like to give an idealized version of what we think will happen. We would be tempted when someone says, and can you guarantee that I'll come back, to say, yeah, you're going to be fine, it's going to be great. Just have a bang-up time. Get on out there. But Gandalf doesn't do this. He says, no. I cannot guarantee that you will come back, but I do guarantee that if you come back, you will not be the same person that you are now. The courage to journey is far more difficult than we would like because it's long. It takes time. Rome was not built in a day, so too none of us were built in a day. We are all, each and every one of us, sort of a combination of things. Experiences, events, people who have come in and out of our lives, things that were in our control and things that were not in our control have all combined to make us who we were and who we are. I'm the first to tell you, I've not always been the proudest of who I am, but I've undertaken the journey to change myself. And our hope is that you have also undertaken a journey, and that you have the courage to continue. Because we might get to a place where we really like who we are, and we don't want to have to do anything new. We just want to sit in our chair and read our books. And I'll tell you, I love a good book. I got a bunch of books for Christmas. I've already read 2 of them. But there comes a time when we got to get out of the chair. And we got to get into the world. Now, there was a bunch of wise men. Sometimes we say 3. It doesn't actually tell us. We learned that a few weeks ago, if you remember. Tammy did a children's moment, and she was like, how many wise men does it say in the Bible? And the answer is, it doesn't say. It just says wise men showed up. And they're sitting in the east, and they are observing the stars, and they see a new star, and it heralds the birth of a king. And they have a choice to make. Do they sit at home and say, man, that was a cool star, wasn't it? Or do they go see what the star is trying to tell them? Trying to tell the world. I love the Christmas story because it's not the people we would expect who are the ones who realize that God is here. The king, Herod, has no idea. Men from the east show up, and they're like, where's the new king? And he's like, say that one again for me real quick. New king? I'm the king. It's good to be the king. They say, yeah, the star in the sky with the thing. The shepherds, the wise men, the outsiders are the ones who get to hear and see and notice that a king for all of us has come. And they have the courage to journey. The shepherds journey from fairly nearby, but they undertake great risk. It's nighttime. They're shepherds, so they're not super looked on great in society, and they're leaving their sheep. But they undertake the courage to journey, to find Jesus. The wise men have to journey through a very dangerous world. Roads that take the shape of basically a trail in the dust. And some guy going, yeah, about that a ways. Is you need to just kind of go that way until you don't anymore. And on this journey, there's brigands and dangers everywhere. It's far safer to stay at home. They risk being attacked and killed. bringing valuable cargo. They've got gold and frankincense and myrrh. They have stuff that's worth things. They're a prime target, and yet they undertake the journey from afar to find the source and reason for this light. The courage to journey is hard for a lot of us to find because it doesn't have an end date, this journey. It's not a journey where we know how long we're going to be. It's not a journey where we can take a vacation from work and say, yeah, I'll be back in 2 weeks. It's a journey that lasts our whole lifetime. There's a reason in our service for remembrance and celebration of life when we say, and now rest from their earthly labors. It's because we're on a journey for the long haul. And that takes work. Do we have the courage to undertake that work? Do we have the courage to take the risk and to know that we might not come back? And to know that we will not be the same if we do come back? Now, there are plenty of quotes that I could share, plenty of stories I could tell, but I'll just give you the gist. There are many who tell us that the best way to expand our worldview is to go on a trip, to get out of our comfort zone, to meet those who are different than us, and to talk with them. Not talk to them, talk with them. There's plenty of people who will talk to people, but not a lot of people who will talk with people. And it is said that by doing this, we overcome a lot of our biases and we recognize a lot of our privileges and a lot of the ways that we view things and how they're flawed because we encounter those who challenge us with different. And we have to then take in that view and wrestle with it and ask ourselves, what does this mean for me? And so to journey means also risking meeting someone who is different than ourselves and risking having that change who we are. And that's scary. Now, you have more of a choice often in your journey than a pastor like me might have, whereas I get a phone call and a DS says, you're moving. And you say, what? You're going to Bedford in January. And you're like, isn't it cold? Is that the snow belt? Is that the east side? It's the south side. Whatever. And I was kind of forced on my journey over here. But we have to trust. And you might get forced on a journey because of someone you bump into, but you're not necessarily forced to pack up your house and move. But your journey, whether chosen or unchosen, with courage. Because it's going to happen whether you want it to or not. That's part of the problem of the journey of life. You can choose how you want to undergo it, but if you just sit in your chair, you're still on the journey. You're just choosing to take a safer but not very experiential journey. To journey, to truly journey, takes courage. And so we look out at 2020 and we ask ourselves, what could be this journey? What could be this year? What could be our thing this year? What could we do? Anybody here make a resolution for this year? Nobody. All right. Woo! Like 3 hands were like, I got a couple of these. Anybody who went like this, was your resolution to be bolder in decision making? We make resolutions. If you made a resolution, anybody break it already? And we ask ourselves, how can we be different this year? How can we be different? What can we do? Many of us will make more than one resolution. Many of us will try more than one new thing. And we may fail at more than we try. But sometimes we try too much, too fast, and too big. That's why this is the prime time of the year to join a gym. They make their bank in January. Everybody shows up, everybody signs up, nobody actually comes back. But to cancel your membership, you got to come in person. They're sneaky. They're mean, those gyms. We make all these resolutions. But it reminds me of a really great quote from a man named Ron Swanson. Now, I don't know if any of you are familiar with Ron Swanson. He is a character on a TV show called Parks and Recreation. And he is kind of anti-everything character. He's his own man. Someone sets a salad in front of him and he says, "This isn't food, this is what food eats." He's that guy. And so he's talking with the other main character, who is the assistant head of the Department of Parks and Rec. And he says something that is very profound and that I think should be really profound for us as we prepare to journey in 2020, as we prepare to ask ourselves, who are we going to be? What are we going to do? Ron Swanson says this: don't half-ass two things. Whole-ass one thing. Now, I have to think about that. But I think he makes a really good point, which is that too often we try to do too many things and we don't got enough stuff to spread over all those things. We might have visions. What can we do this year? How can we serve God better this year? And we might say, I can do this and this and this. And I say, maybe start with one. We might say, I'm going to undertake a journey, and I'm going to go here, 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 here. And I say, pick one place to start. The Magi had one place they were going. They were following the star, and that was it. The shepherds had one destination. It was Bethlehem, to confirm what the angels had told them. That was it. And it takes courage to step out and follow that one thing, that one conviction, that one God somewhere new. So in 2020, we may ask ourselves, what should my thing be? Where can I apply all of my derriere this year? Maybe, just maybe, it's in talking to someone who views things differently than you. We might look at our country and the way our politics have become. We might look at our denomination and the way our politics have become. We might look at our city and the way our politics have become. Oh, I'm sensing a theme here. And ask ourselves, how did it become this way? And my challenge then to that question is, when was the last time you actually talked with someone who views things differently than you? It's tough to have honest conversations, but if we do it, maybe we'll actually learn how to talk to one another once again. And when we do that, we might recognize that someone we disagree with is actually a human being. Shocking, it's true. You can vote for a Democrat and be a human. You can vote for a Republican and be a human. You can't vote for the Green Party, though. That's a joke. I often get so wrapped up in I am right. I'm not going to take a journey to even talk to someone else, to wrestle with their worldview, to try and understand it, not to agree with it, but to understand it, to see where that takes me. So we ask ourselves, how can 2020 be a new year? Maybe it's a new year by making a new friend. Not a friend we agree with, but a friend that we honestly can talk to. Someone who's comfortable with us challenging their worldview. and who we're comfortable having challenge our worldview. That's the journey I want to go on. A journey where I'm not who I was when I started, and where I get out of my comfort zone and I find God in the process. I'm not who I once was. And that's okay. Now I have moments where I'll be as good once as I ever was. It's a Toby Keith reference. It's real subtle. But the truth of the matter is, I'm not who I once was, and neither are you, whether you want to believe that or not. So have the courage to tackle the journey that you're already on head on. And apply all that you have to that one surface, that one journey, that one road trip. Amen.